Jay here, Stretford, Paddock. That's Scotty. This is a review. Manchester United losing 4-3 away at Brentford in a game that, in the grand scheme of things, doesn't mean a lot, but it's another league defeat. There are obviously different connotations to this one. We've got a big game coming up in the Europa League. The sort of attention has shifted from the league. We know we were playing quite a young mixed squad. It's just not nice watching Manchester United lose every week, is it, Scotty? It's just... I just can't believe this season, how it's panning out. Is that our 16th league defeat this season? It is kind of insane what we're watching most weeks for United.
Yeah, well, if you put it in the context of the 16 league losses that we've had, that was one of the more enjoyable ways to get ways to get beat. I reckon if that game went on for another 10 minutes, then United could have got back into it. It looked like Brentford had stopped about 80th minute. But there's a lot to take away from it. I suppose the biggest dampener wasn't the scoreline, but was the Delict injury.
Good point.
We don't know how long he's going to be out, and hopefully it might be a hit and miss whether he's going to come back for the Thursday game. But you look at the goals we conceded. The Delict injury, should the referee have stopped play there, but the player should have played to the whistle.
Steve Howson, who actually bizarrely joined us for the watch-along for the first time in about 4 years for a game that doesn't really matter, he was a bit annoyed at that. He thought the referee could have stopped it. I'll be honest with you, I'm not going to pretend that that's what I thought. At the time, I didn't think anything of it. I always moan when players stop the game, when players themselves take it upon themselves to stop a game when there's an injury and it's not a head injury. And I also think with that situation, I know that Steve was saying Delict waved and he did. Is it that urgent that if you don't treat him within those 30 seconds that he's going to suffer even worse injury? So I understand why Brentford played on, and I kind of understand why Andy Taylor didn't blow up. And also, let's not pretend that it was like that was the only thing that was going wrong for Manchester United at that time.
No, but if he's in his position and isn't on the floor injured, then I don't think all the pressure's on Fredrickson to defend. And obviously, he got beat in the air. And I think a couple of their goals came through our youngsters. And don't forget how young there was the defence that we put out today. And with Luke Shaw coming back from injury again, who's not fit. You know, Harry Amas still learning his trade, Fredrickson still learning his trade, Obi up front. It wasn't like our strongest 11 by any stretch of the imagination, although I did think that the 11 that we put out there was good enough to get something against Brentford. And it started optimistically when you see how Garnacho and Mason Mount were linked up. Garnacho got a great goal late on. Ahmad was nice to get onto the pitch and meg the keeper from 30 yards out, which you very rarely see, but you do love to see it. So, yes, we got beat. It is the 16th defeat of the season, but I don't know. I'm not really, as arsed as I usually would be.
No, I hear that. Get involved in the chat in the comments. It's weird, innit? It's this weird feeling. I don't like dismissing defeats, and I don't like the fact that United get beat in the league every week, but then you do have to be have that caveat of it is a bit of a mixed bag team, and let's be honest, this is a game that doesn't mean a lot, hence the reason he mixed it up so much. Get involved in the chat in the comments, let us know what you think. Marcus is saying, I'm asking you, yes or no, do you want him sacked if we finish 17th? I don't know who you're asking, whether you're asking me or just the chat. I certainly don't. Santa Not says, I blame Steve's failures to sell his Europa League final tickets when no one sent in their boobs. I think there's a bit of a debate going on about Amarin out. I don't really think I'm on that bus, to be honest with you. Arman Kulinovic says, I wouldn't want my team to stop the play, so I don't care about that. It's more important that Garnacho stopped to raise his hand rather than cover the player who assisted for that goal. That was something that McCullough picked up. The Big Lebrowski says, a lot of positives in the game considering the lineup. Amas did himself no favours, so negative. Fredrickson really good on the ball, but not strong enough aerially yet. Hands up for the Panther says, some chat having a meltdown again. No life outside of football. These fans, in inverted commas, or in quotes, think everything matters like we have to win everything. 4-3 shows we gave it a go. Just rages shouting at clouds. Joseph Seraph says, Amarin everything day, every hour, every minute, every second. So it's every day, sorry. Dalton Brittle says, people asking about, or he says, what happens if we lose the Europa League final? Does Amarin keep his job? YouTube Bacon News says it's Ruben Amarin. Do you think that these defeats or anything adds pressure to this manager in terms of the Europa League? Because if we don't win the Europa League and you're looking at a season that has ended with you, I mean, we could end up losing more games between now and the end of the season. Do you think that Ineos might look at it and go, Have we made a bit of a boo-boo like we did with Ashworth, or do you think they just because he's coming in 3 months into the season, they won't be that? I
think the conversation would have been a lot different had Amarin started the season.
Yeah,
and we'd finished it, and we'd finished this late down. But I think given that he wanted to join next year when they approached him, but they forced him into the position and he had to take the job. Again, we've gone over this loads of times. It's not his team and stuff. And I think, I mean, I'm a huge Amorim fan, and I believe he will take us back to where United need to be. But I wasn't expecting the drop-off to be as much as it has been so far this season. When you've heard him come out in press conference and says he's trying to teach the players to do something completely different to what they've been used to doing, he can't go back on that plan because it just confuses them even more. So we're just going to have to go to the end of the season. But there's no way on this earth that Ineos are going anywhere near sort of pulling the trigger on getting sacked if we don't win the Europa League. But I fully believe we'll win that.
Yeah, I think we will. I think Joe Smith always talks about it, and I think he's right. Like, the issue you've got with some of these results and the nature of the season, the way it's sort of panned out, is if you have a bad start next season, then maybe that's when people start looking at it. Maybe Ineos, who I've got a bit of a reputation of not being the most patient organisation, maybe then they start looking at it. But I certainly don't think this season it matters too much. I just hope that we do win that Europa League. We have Champions League football. We do get the transfers in that we need, because we know we need players. You saw that most teams can actually rotate their squad, can't they? They can bring in 3 or 4 different players, and it's not that heavy for them. United can't. I always think the problem with this United team is our starting 11 is not that bad. It's quite good. I think if everyone's fit, which is a rarity, I know, but if everyone's fit, that starting 11, you look at it and you go, okay, that's a team that could go up against pretty much anyone and give them a game. But when you start having 1 or 2 injuries, especially to certain players, there's some key players in this team. One of the key players in his team who's missing today is obviously Bruno Fernandes. He's just the man that makes it tick. That's when there's a big drop-off for me. That's the issue you got. And in the Premier League, you need a squad. Every team now that does anything half decent has a decent squad. They can rotate, they can do that. United are in this silly position where we can't. And you're not going to have a fully fit team all the time. That just never ever happens, does it?
No, and I think we should take into consideration the psychological element, where I think a lot of the players aren't performing week in, week out in the Premier League because they know everything is right. Is riding in Europa League, like how easy is it to get yourself into gear playing a non-game? Because this has been the case for a long time, where we've had nothing riding on any performance at the weekend rather than trying to get into the team for the game in Europa League. So I take that into consideration. But yeah, I think you're being a bit generous in saying that we've got a squad or starting 11 that could go toe-to-toe with most teams. We haven't got a striker that can score. We've got a goalkeeper that is calamitous.
No, but we have done that though, haven't we? We have gone up against
but not
teams.
Consistently.
Do you know? No, but I'm saying
if we had 11 strong.
If we've got Martinez, you've got Yoro, you've got De Ligt in that team. If Luke Shaw probably starts if he's fit, but he's just never fit. If you've got Bruno Fernandes, you've got Agate, you've got Kobe Mainoo, you've got Ahmad. I think you could go up against most teams. The trouble is you've got half those players have missed nearly all the season. Yeah, that's my issue. I think if everyone was fit, I know it was a different time, but even last season you saw it. FA Cup final, everyone's fit. We give Manchester City, I think, a fantastic game. The issue you've got is when you lose Ahmad, you've got a striker. I agree with you, but then it doesn't matter as much if Ahmad's there, because Ahmad can get you goals, Bruno can get you goals. When you lose Ahmad, you're in trouble. When you lose Martinez, who was playing fantastically just before he got injured, you're in trouble. And you lose De Ligt, you're in trouble. We haven't got a squad. I think that's the biggest issue for me. Is you can have your questions about your goalkeeper. I don't know if he's even going to get replaced in this summer. I do expect a new striker to come in. But even if you did bring in a new striker, have we got the squad? Because once that striker gets injured, Højlund's coming in. So that's the big worry for me, is about the squad depth. I think Manchester United, we need to have a bit of luck with injuries, which people don't like talking about luck, but it's true. And we need to add to the squad. Just on the goalkeeper front, because Bayern came in today. You've made your feelings clear on Andre Onana, and I completely understand where you're coming from. Bayern comes in. You can see why there's. I mean, I love Bayern because he was nice to me kids, but you can see there's issues in goalkeeper whoever you pick in there.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say that Onana is probably the lesser of two evils, to steal a phrase.
Would you? Sorry to bombard you with questions, but would you prioritise a goalkeeper in the summer? Would you think he'll stick with who we've got?
No, on the basis that I think if we've got a stronger back line, then I don't think it's as big a risk on Onana conceding goals. And much a priority, we need to score goals more than we do to stop conceding. And that has to be the priority, is scoring goals. I mean, that was a positive today, getting Mason Mount on the goal sheet, Ahmad coming back and scoring, and Garnacho getting a sensational strike. And I know that I'm, painting over a really shitty picture here, but you've got to look at the positives. And that's been another issue as well with Højlund's lack of goals. doesn't feel so big if the rest of the team are chipping in with contributions aside from Bruno.
Yeah.
And that needs to be addressed as well. But first and foremost, it has to be a new striker through the door. But yeah, I agree. If we get off to anywhere near a start next season as we're ending this season, then it will be very difficult for him if he doesn't win the Europa League.
Yeah,
I think if he wins the Europa League, then you got to get more credit in the bank.
I like Cameron, but this is the issue, isn't it? You're going to start looking at it and you're going to go in, he's a manager who's had this sort of poor league campaign, and then at the start of next season, I just don't we give him patience, man. I'm just sick of changing managers. I'm sick of fucking going through the same things every week, or every year, I should say. The Duke says, we should be going for a defender this summer, but Dean H, definitely for 50 million. Martinez can be a DCM. Obi's brilliant. He has something special. What did you make of Obi today?
It's very similar to some of the performances I've seen at Hoyland. He had to sort of create his own chances, really. There was very little for him to feed on. There was a time towards the end of the game where he took the ball down really well in the 18-yard box, and it took a great clearance, great block from the Brentford defender to stop it getting on target. But he's young, and I think the pressure's on. I think if he scores, it may be worse for Obi in the long run, because I think the pressure will go straight on. So, you know, it'd be nice if he scored and stuff, but he's got a long career ahead of him and no pressure at all.
Mustafa Hassan says 35 games, 39 points is embarrassing, not going to lie. Isn't that like, sort of usually that's around the relegation sort of figure, that, is it? Is it still 40 points?
Well, listen, we're not relegated though, are we?
No, I'm usually that. Usually,
usually.
That's what I'm on about. Usually it's around 40 points to say safety, don't they? Which is what United are pretty much on course for. Miles says, when Scotty's telling you to stop being cynical and focus on the positive, you know idiots in the chat calling for the sack, I'll be on the pale. Are you telling us to focus on the positive?
Yes.
Burnside is back, says, don't mind the performance, do mind the lined up and general attitude. We toss the league off. Embarrassing, truly. Ross Murphy says, any injury to Bruno or Hoyland or Casemiro, then we are in the shit. I think it's a good day today. Bruno and Casemiro got rested. Casemiro wasn't even getting in the team though, like 3 months ago, was it? And Hoyland's got, I've defended Rasmus Hoyland so many times on this channel. I'm sick of doing it. But, I mean, his record speaks for himself. I mean, we should have better options than just a player who, no disrespect to him, has got, 3 league goals in his last 30 games. I'm sorry. We need a bit more than that, and that's part of my problem, is the lack of strength in depth in the squad. Charles Karim Mazondo says, Ugarte was the only outstanding player. Mason Mount got a goal today. He's had a tough time of it, hasn't he? Got the number 7 shirt. This fanfare obviously came from Chelsea. We could have waited till the summer to get him on a free. We bought him instead, because obviously Ten Hag wanted him straight away. Injured almost constantly. When he's not been injured, he hasn't really got going. But getting a goal today, what did you make of his performance? And do you think this could do anything for him?
It was great for him to get a goal. I think we were joking before the game that he seems to get booked every 60 minutes.
Three bookings
in 8 games. And I wonder how much that's out of frustration because he's not actually been playing. Because when he's been coming on as a substitution, you can see how much he's want to get involved in the game. Whenever I watch him come off the bench, I sort of hear the Roy Keane voice in my head go like, go out there, put a boot on someone. Because that's what he typifies, isn't he? When he goes out. So today for him to start and to get the goal, it was a good move. But then the second half, it was very similar between Garnacho and Mason Mount, and he had two bites of the cherry, and he fluffed both of them, and he could have hit him a little bit sweeter. I'm not too sure. I think obviously there's a talented player there, but again, injury record. I've not been that convinced when I've seen him play.
That's my worry. Is not, and I don't want to hate on a guy who's just scored a goal. I just feel that when he does play, I'm still waiting.
If we're holding other players to the bar of you need to prove your worth to be at the Manchester United, I'm talking like the likes of Onana and Hoyland, then we hold Mount to the same sort of calibre. I've not seen anything from Mason Mount to say, yes, he's worth the money. Yes, he should be starting week in, week out for Manchester United. I just don't see it. And I still think that them number 10 spots, I think if we get Kuna, then one of them's gone. Personally, I'd like to see Mainu up there, but it looks like Mainu might be wanting to drop back if we were talking to Steve on the live. So where does he play? You can't sign that player for that amount of money and him not be a starter.
That's a good point. Yeah, no, I agree. Just one final one for you, Scotty. Someone says here, Heaven Soul says, I'm still a little nervous for Thursday. The lads do look to change it up mentally in Europe. If we can bag an early goal, I think we see it out. Are you nervous for Thursday at all?
This is Manchester United. Of course, I'm nervous.
This is Manchester United. Go on, sorry.
But I've got a horrible feeling that we'll concede a goal early doors.
Just to make it interesting.
And then my boxer shorts will be chewed for the next 80 minutes, I reckon. But I fully expect us to go through.
Yeah. Brian Casey says, we're a completely different team in Europe. The pace of the Europa League suits us. Yes, we are a completely different team than we are in the Premier League, thank God, because in the Premier League, we're pretty awful. Another defeat today, albeit against a makeshift or featuring a makeshift Manchester United side. That's been Scotty. Go and check him out on the Sober Fellas podcast with me. I'm Jay. This has been a review. Manchester United losing 4-3 at Brentford. Thanks for watching.